The fire and the loss, the New Zealand Wars and the enduring trauma of land confiscation, 1845-1872. The New Zealand Wars, or Land Wars Ngapakanga, o Aotearoa. A protracted and devastating series of armed conflicts that took place predominantly across the North Island between 1845 and 1872, represent the most tragic, consequential, and defining chapter in the complex early relationship between the Indigenous Māori people and the British Crown. These wars were not merely isolated skirmishes. They were a profound struggle over sovereignty and the essential right to land, wenue, driven by relentless European settler demand and resulting in the punitive confiscation of vast, fertile tracts of Māori territory, leaving an enduring and unresolved legacy of grievance that fundamentally shapes New Zealand's political and social landscape today. The causes: sovereignty, land hunger, and the treaty's breach. The root of the conflict lay in fundamentally differing interpretations of the 1840 Treaty of Waitangi and the aggressive, accelerating pace of colonial expansion. Contested sovereignty. The British believed the treaty granted them ultimate sovereignty, kawanatanga, over all of New Zealand. Most Māori chiefs, however, believed they retained tino rangatiratanga, full chieftainship and authority, over their lands, resources, and internal affairs, only conceding the Crown the right of preemption, first offer to buy land. Settler land hunger. As European settler numbers grew exponentially in the 1850s and 1860s, the demand for arable land became overwhelming. Despite the treaty's guarantee to protect Māori land ownership, taonga, the colonial government became increasingly determined to acquire or seize land, often through dubious sales, coercive tactics, or direct military force. The Kīngitanga movement. In direct response to the accelerating land loss and the perceived failure of the Crown to uphold the treaty, several powerful central North Island iwi tribes formed the Kīngitanga, Māori King movement in 1858. This movement sought to establish a unified Māori king and parallel government to collectively halt further land sales and protect Māori autonomy, presenting a clear political challenge to colonial authority. The conflicts began in pockets, such as the Northern War over the British Flagstaff in 1845, but escalated dramatically into full-scale military campaigns. Most notably, the invasion of the Waikato in 1863, which was launched specifically to crush the Kīngitanga movement and seize its fertile heartland. The consequence: punitive confiscation, Raupatu. The most devastating and long-lasting consequence of the New Zealand Wars was the large-scale confiscation of Māori land, Raupatu. The New Zealand Settlements Act, 1863. This legislation provided the formal legal justification for seizing land from any Māori tribe deemed to be in rebellion against the Crown. The stated, though cynically applied, purpose was to establish settlements for loyal military settlers, thereby providing both security and funding for the war effort. Scale of loss. Altogether, well over 1.2 million hectares, 3 million acres of Māori land were confiscated, primarily concentrated in the highly fertile regions of the Waikato, Taranaki, and Bay of Plenty. Crucially, the confiscations often targeted the best agricultural land and were frequently applied indiscriminately, sometimes seizing land even from loyal Māori who had not taken up arms or had fought alongside the Crown. Socio-economic impact. This massive, punitive loss of land stripped affected iwi of their economic base, undermined their social structures, and led to cycles of impoverishment, political marginalization, and deep cultural dislocation that persisted for over a century. For those who survived the fighting, the economic war of dispossession often proved more destructive. A legacy of unfinished business. The New Zealand Wars officially concluded around 1872, with the withdrawal of imperial troops and the final pursuit of profits like te kuti. However, the bitterness and grievance over the Raupatu did not end. They became the central, defining feature of Māori Crown relations. This historical injustice has had a profound direct impact on the socio-economic disparities between Māori and Pākehā, European New Zealanders, that persisted throughout the 20th century. Today, the wars and the subsequent land confiscations remain the central focus of the Treaty of Waitangi settlement process. Through formal government apologies, financial redress, and the return of significant cultural lands, Tayonga, New Zealand continues the long and complex process of reconciliation, formally acknowledging that the wars were primarily conflicts driven by colonial expansion and the fundamental breach of the guarantees made in its founding document.